Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our third webinar in a three-part series about tribal innovations and success stories in healthy homes outreach. My name is Erin McTighe. I'm with EPA Region 10 and the Tribal Air Program, and I'm really excited to co-host this webinar today with Tribal Healthy Homes Network. And we're just going to get right into things because we have a full agenda today with some excellent speakers. Thanks to all who've joined us in the first two webinars. And if you haven't, we'll have information later about where the recordings are available so you can tune into those. So just to give a quick overview of where we are going to go today, this is a quick snapshot of the agenda and our excellent speakers. I'm going to start us out with just some brief logistics about how to participate today and ask questions. In the flow of things, I'm going to share some tidbits of lessons learned and key information from the last webinar from last Monday. And then I'm going to turn it over to Gillian to say a few words and also do a couple of poll questions to get us started and help us understand who's on the line, the GoToWebinar line today. And then I'm really excited that we're going to hear from Lucas Bear with the Spokane Tribe, though I actually think I have it switched up here. I believe that Oxenia O'Diamond from Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium is going to speak first and then turn it over to Lucas to they're both going to be talking about exciting, valuable programs that they've done with their tribe or tribal organization. And then we're going to close out by turning the mic over to Krista Thornton with Tribal Healthy Homes Network, who's going to share some information with you all about how to order Air Matters toolkits if you're interested, a program that all of the different tribes and organizations who participated in this webinar series have used or modified to make their own, and then also just share a bit about how to get training and support from Tribal Healthy Homes Network. And then we're going to end with a raffle of an Air Matters toolkit, so Gillian will facilitate that, and then have some time for a Q&A with our presenters. So just some brief logistics. Feel free at any time to put a question or comment either in the question box or the chat box. It could be on the right side of your screen on the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll have colleagues monitoring that, in particular Eileen Gagne with Tribal Healthy Homes Network, who's going to be helping to facilitate answers to those questions or bring them up later in the Q&A. The webinar will be recorded, and so the recordings will be made available if you'd like to look back at those or share them with others, and we'll have the slides also available as well and any resources we discuss. So just before we get started with today's presentation, I just wanted to say thank you to our excellent presenters from webinars 1 and 2, Tiffany Lozada with Porch Band of Creek Indians in Alabama, Sydney Jansen with Tribal Healthy Homes Network, the Air Matters Evaluation intern, who did some excellent presentations on the last webinars that I encourage you to listen to if you haven't already, Brooke Sanderson with Loudon Tribal Council in Galena, Alaska, and Eileen Gagne with Tribal Healthy Homes Network, who shared about some of her technical support and training on the last webinar. So thank you all so much for your contributions. So just before we learn about some new tribal programs, I wanted to highlight a couple of things that we took away from the last webinar last Monday. You'll see some images from the different presenters, so thanks again for sharing those with us. Some of the key things that I thought were worth just bringing up and sharing up front today were that, if you're interested in doing indoor air and healthy homes outreach, or if you already are, these are some tips from our prior presenters. So one being to set up a brainstorming session with EPA colleagues, with Tribal Healthy Homes Network, with other tribes who've done this work, other tribal departments. It can be just a great way to start and scope out a program. And if you decide to bring in a training to help your program get started, another idea is to invite the whole community. I know that Eileen shared that one of the communities in Alaska that she worked with invited the whole community, and it was just an excellent way to have everyone learn and be engaged. Another thing that we heard from, I think, presenters on all of the webinars is that making resources user-friendly and tailored for your community has been kind of a pro tip, I guess I would say, and you can make them extra user-friendly and interesting to your community by putting your own photos, your tribal logo, your own contact information, even stickers that correspond between different tools and paper-based materials, so that it's something that engages people right away and shows community members who are using these kits and outreach materials how to use them, and kind of makes it just really straightforward. Another thing that we heard on the last webinar was that if you're going to start somewhere with providing educational tools or indoor air tools and equipment, that starting with the carbon monoxide and smoke detectors is a really good place to start, because if people don't already have them in their homes, or if they're outdated or don't have batteries in them, making sure that people have those in their homes is a life-saving, potentially life-saving and health protecting place to start, and also not very expensive. So that is a great tip from one of our presenters last week. So a few more quick points that I wanted to share, and you'll see some data here that Brooke Sanderson from Loudoun Tribal Council shared with us last week, is that, a great place to start is just getting to understand what your community's needs are. And that might be, depending on where we are in the pandemic and where your community is, just talking to people, having an event, or it could be an online event, or doing a survey to get an understanding of what your community's priorities are and needs and challenges, and then being able to tailor your program based on that. You'll see that in Brooke's data here, ventilation was one of the primary needs and concerns, as well as wood smoke, I think, from wood heating in her community. Providing a few different ways for people to engage can be valuable. Both can help with navigating, where you might be in the pandemic. Also, different people have different preferences for how they want to engage. Some are more comfortable doing so online. Some prefer to chat in person or over the phone, maybe don't have internet access. So having a few different ways for your program to be rolled out and for people to learn about it is a pro tip that we heard from other presenters. And some of you may be familiar with a Quality Assurance Project Plan, or a QAP, which is something that EPA grantees are required to use if they are doing any sort of data collection. But Brooke shared on the last call about the work that she did in Alaska, where she did this survey where she was able to collect the data that you see here, and she developed a quality assurance project plan up front just to make sure that the program was well thought out, that there were a certain number of questions that would get to the results that she was looking for. And there's certainly assistance available if you are interested in developing a QAP for survey work or in-home assessments or other kinds of data collection work related to indoor air in healthy homes. And certainly you can see that data is really powerful, both to inform your own program and also to ask and look for additional resources. So you may find, I know one of the things that Brooke shared with me was that a lot of homes were missing exhaust vents or over their cooking area, also didn't have working ventilation in bathrooms to help get some of that moisture out, which can create mold. So this data is something that she can use as she looks for, housing improvements and resources for that. So last slide here before I turn it over, a few tips that we also, I think, heard in webinar one were to look for unique partners. Eileen shared some great examples of ways to work with school staff, either science teachers or school administration, principals, facilities staff, and also clinical staff. There are lots of different ways you can partner with different programs to get the word out and to connect. Incentives also help. We know we've heard about a number of different examples of how you can use the indoor air tools as raffle prizes, whether it be something, a higher ticket item like a HEPA filter vacuum, or even smaller things like microfiber cleaning cloths and green cleaning supplies. And that can be really fun and engaging for community events. And then I think perhaps one of the most powerful things we heard is that, if you help one person, you should know that you've made a difference and your program was worthwhile. And so that, I think, is a very grounding place for us to start. And I am going to move us on to the next slide with just a quick reminder of the resources that are available. We talked about these in more detail on some of our last presentations. The Tribal Healthy Homes Network has the Air Matters program, which you'll hear a lot more about today, an excellent funding directory for expanding resources in your program at tribalindoorairfunding.org. And also can provide one-on-one training and technical support. And of course, I would have to make sure as an EPA staff person, I want to highlight that we have a lot of resources and technical expertise in our different programs to support your tribe or community, your program in its outreach tool development, as well as lots of other kinds of technical information and support. We have funding that we provide through Indian General Assistance Program, or IGAP, the Clean Air Act Tribal Grant Program. There's our environmental justice grants, among other resources available that can be used for indoor air related work. And of course, the tribes and presenters that are part of this webinar series, as well as others that aren't, that we'd be happy to connect you with that have done indoor air work, are excellent resources. Same goes with Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals and ANTHC, who you'll be hearing from later today. So here is our contact information, and I will make sure to bring it up again at the end. But in the meantime, I'm going to turn the mic over to Gillian, who's going to share a few slides and also do a poll. So I'm going to change it over to you, Gillian.
Hi. All right. You want to go ahead? Yep. Show my screen. Erin, you just want to confirm that I have audio. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. And yes, you can see my next screen as well. I'm going to have to try to adjust that. Nope, can't do it right now. All right. Not seeing the same buttons. There we go. Hi, everybody. Just as Erin said, I'm Gillian Middlestead. I'm the director of the Tribal Healthy Homes Network, and I also run the Partnership for Air Matters. Great to see a lot of the names on the attendees today. I see a lot of tribes across Alaska and the lower 48, and a lot of local, state, and tribal partners and federal agencies, I think, who we have a shared mission and different challenges, but I think there's a lot of cross-learning we can do, and I'm excited for you to hear Lucas and Oksenia today. Just a couple things. I also, as always, want to thank the Tulalip Tribes. They are the host organization. I run their ambient and indoor environments program there and have for many years, but they also, the community, their leadership, their staff, they support the Tribal Healthy Homes Network, and EPA does as well. So I just want to give them a special thank you and shout out for being our longtime supporter. Very quickly, we have at the end of each webinar, we have raffled off a complete Air Matters toolkit. You can see the list that's of the contents in that kit on the right there, and that will be happening at the end of today's session as well. While you can see this kit, I just have one sort of quick observation here for those of you who might not have been on webinar 1 and 2. In part, the purpose of this webinar series was to address how we could do Healthy Homes outreach and improve asthma outcomes and other health outcomes during COVID when we couldn't get into homes. The toolkits actually precede COVID, and as some of you may know, the basic premises is that we have hundreds of thousands of homes with a variety of healthy home hazards and impairments. And until we have radical systems change, we're not going to be able to get into all those homes or schools or workplaces. So one of the most important things we need to do is engage and inform people and households and parents so that they recognize risk and can speak out about them. They can advocate for themselves. They can mitigate some of the risk to the extent that they have that is feasible for them. The toolkit is designed to create things that are visible and measurable. And if you can measure something, it's more likely to be perceived as real. Lots of organizations have adapted the toolkit and created their own set, but I just wanted to add that that is part of the rationale here today. Very quickly, for those who've completed all 3 webinars, we do have a certificate of completion, or we'll have after today. And at the end of today's webinar, I'm also going to be sending out recordings. We have a YouTube channel, and it's linked to that, and you can go ahead and download and see all of them and then request your certificate. All right, so I have a poll briefly, and I think, Erin, I need to stop sharing. Yep, I'm just going to pause showing my screen. So a couple interactive polls. I think I can go ahead and administer it, Erin.
Okay.
All right, the first one is just what type of program. Come on, mouse. There we go. It's this tiny little, okay, the poll should be open.
Looks good.
Give it about 5 more seconds. Okay, great. And let's see, you can briefly see the poll. So good to see we have a pretty good distribution, a lot of tribal environmental air quality folks and a lot of tribal partners at local state agencies, which is great. All right, I'm going to go ahead and issue the next question. And, all right, sorry for the, all right, so one of the things we want to know, and that was again, somewhat to some extent behind this, is how did you modify your Healthy Homes or asthma or indoor outreach due to COVID? And did you use any of those described here? And I believe this should allow you to check all that apply. And what we would love to do, any of you who click the other box, please then share in the chat box what that other would be. You can share it in the chat box and also during the Q&A later if you'd like to raise it. Okay, about 5 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share. Interesting. So a lot of virtual FaceTime, 66% of you were able to use that. That's great. We would love to hear about how you were using those and how you set that up. Okay, final question very quickly. And I apologize for all the legs. GoToWebinar has not caught up with, is not the cleanest technology used for polls. And then really we want to know what's stuck. What will you continue to use where you found that it was more effective, more time efficient for your program, it was more effective for your target population? Okay, about 5 more seconds. All right, and I'm going to share this. Interesting. So the video outreach was the most cited use for COVID outreach, and it looks like that was successful. So again, share with us anything you can in the chat box, email us. We would love to profile, learn more about your program and what worked and what didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the polls, mute myself, and let's move on to our great speakers today. Thank you.
Thanks, Gillian, and thanks everybody for participating in those. That's really interesting, helpful data. And agreed, we'd love to hear more about your work. All right, I'm going to turn the controls over to Aksenia to share with us about work that she and colleagues have been doing at the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. And I see your slides. Looks great, Aksenia.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me good.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so my name is Lexenia Diamond. I'm the program manager here at the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium in our Healthy Homes program. I've been here in the program for about a year, but I've been with our organization for a little over 10 years. I am Sukpiaki Nunangak. I'm originally from Chignik Lake on the Alaska Peninsula, and I'm a member of the Unga tribe. So our Healthy Homes program really pursues partnerships with local tribal organizations, regional tribal health organizations, and local housing authorities to improve respiratory health and encourage healthier home environments in Alaska Native communities. Our program offers trainings, home assessments, and healthy home topic-specific technical assistance to communities throughout Alaska. So the purpose behind our program is really children's respiratory health. We know that childhood pneumonia can have long-term effects, and it can lead to chronic wet cough and permanent lung damage that can lead to severe breathing difficulties as a child, and that will reach farther into adulthood. So on this slide, you can see that it compares rural Alaska on the left to urban Alaska on the right, and you can definitely see that the pneumonia-associated hospitalizations is so much higher than in our rural communities than it is in the urban areas. And part of those issues are really just narrowed down to that many rural Alaska houses are so much smaller, they're crowded, and they use wood stoves for their heat. And all of these can contribute to poor indoor air quality and poor respiratory health. So what we did back in 2015 was our initial hospital consult study. And right here on the top of, you could see who our partners were, and our goal was to see if home improvements can reduce the pollutants and improve health in children with lung disease. Here were our methods. We identified um, children with lung problems as they entered into the hospital setting, and then at kind of provided our initial outreach to them and seeing if they were interested in us assessing their homes or providing, and from those assessments, providing some home renovations and modifications, whether it was including, range hoods, vents, mold remediation, just depending on what their need was. We also, in that first initial consult, provide a lot of education and outreach. In our education, we really use the cue cards as our visual our to help our parents visualize kind of what we're trying to get across to them, which really encouraged a lot of the behavior changes. They were able to see it visually and kind of relate it to what they were seeing in their home, and help us move forward easier with their targeted home. We also did this study, and as you can see from the slide, our study homes were well above the U.S. housing percentages as far as the occupancy, the square footage, how many people per room, and how many people used wood stoves as their primary heat source, smokers in the home, and then no running waters. Because a lot of communities in rural Alaska still don't have 100% running water in their homes. So some of the results from that initial study did did show us what we thought was there, that there was a lot of high level of pollutants in organic compounds, and a very high rate of children reported coughing and wheezing and lung infections and hospital stays. So, as I said earlier, methods were to meet with the parents right in the hospital setting and get them income verified, get them interested, shared some toolkits with them. And after some of the home improvements that we did based on what their need was, we found that there was a decrease in symptoms in children. So the runny noses were down, coughs were down, wheezing was down. There was a decrease in these children being absent from school, which would make parents absent from work, and there was really a decrease in to visits to the emergency room or the clinic or any hospital setting. And so what we found that worked was changing out wood stoves, sharing best burning practices. If there was any ventilation issues, we either installed or fixed their vents. And shared a lot of education on why ventilation was really important. We provided vacuums and safer cleaning supplies and shared about washing bedding more regularly, talked about pets, and we addressed the mold issues and talked about removing carpets if that was a possibility or if that was really what was needed in any specific home. And then, like I said earlier, really talked about increasing the ventilation in homes and shared a lot about green cleaning products. So in summary, we with our initial consult, we completed 92 homes and we mailed out adapted Healthy Homes toolkits to all of those homes, kind of tailored onto from that initial meeting with the parents and the home assessments. We tailored their toolkits to their specific needs in their homes. And then we also did 47 low-cost modifications to homes, whether it was ventilation, mold and moisture mitigation, or the heat source, changed out some wood stoves or changed out some of their Toyo stoves, which turned out to be um, pretty low cost, under $5,000 per home. And then at our 6-month checkup calls with caregivers, so with parents, we found that there was a lot of behavior change um, in the home that kind of related to the education that we did with them in the hospital setting when we first met with them. And then we really determined that it was feasible to provide these consults and arrange the low cost modifications when when a child was hospitalized with a lung infection. One of the biggest barriers that we ran into was the timing. Sometimes it didn't feel like it was right. There's parents um, really concerned about their child, and so we had to do some follow-up calls, seeing if it was a good time to now talk about some of the issues that were going on in their home and be able to try to enroll them into our program. So really the timing was it was hit or miss. But really like right there in the hospital setting, there was a lot of parents that were like, sure, sign me up. And then some of them were like, can we just talk about this when we're not in the hospital? So from there, after the original Healthy Home study concluded with the results linking indoor air quality to respiratory illness, it became a priority here at ANTHC to develop our program more. We are now working with additional tribal health organizations moving forward to conduct some hospital consults with families and pregnant moms and identify the possible environmental hazards in their home and we really stress a lot about the behavior change in the home, whether it's green cleaning or even taking your shoes off at the door and just to improve the air quality in the homes. And then we do provide the Healthy Homes toolkits to each family that we are in contact with based on their needs. And then if needed, we'll refer them to the local housing authority for those low cost modifications. And our next steps, like right now, our target is pregnant moms so that when a baby is born, they're coming into a healthier home and starting out at the best that they can and moving forward. And so from there, that really concludes the my presentation. The slide has our Healthy Homes program contact information. There is only two of us. There's Abby and I, and so sometimes getting back to people, it kind of takes us a day or two. So, but that's all that I had. So thank you.
Thank you, Axinia. Small but mighty team that leverages a lot of resources, I know. Thank you so much for sharing that really excellent work, and I'm excited to see what happens in the next steps too. So thank you. I know we received a few questions. I'm going to save most of those for the end, but one thing I wanted to just quickly ask Axinia, someone asked if you had references you could share for the Healthy Homes assessment work. And I think that refers to the published research. So if you, I know there are a few different papers, and if you don't mind dropping those in the chat box, that would be great. We could also send them afterwards too if you don't have them handy. So thank you. And I am going to now switch the controls over to Lucas Bear with the Spokane Tribe to talk about some exciting and kind of a different approach that he took with use of the Air Matters Toolkit as an educational tool. So Lucas, I'm just going to switch over to you. And thanks again, Axinia.
Hello, can you hear me fine?
Yes, and looks good. Sounds good. Thank you, Lucas.
Hello, my name's Lucas Bear with the Spokane Tribe, and I work with the Department of Natural Resources. And the picture in the background is Cayuse Mountain. It's on the reservation. Just wanted to show that off a little bit. And let's get into it. So introduction, this is the reservation for the Spokane Tribe. It's bordered to the west with the Columbia River, the south, the Spokane River, and on the east side, which is a little harder to see, is the Shamokin Creek, and then a kind of a straight longitude towards the top of the page, which is the reservation for us. And I manage the air quality program. I was a tech in 2013 and then got the manager position in 2017. We have a class 1 air shed. And so I get to comment on permits and things that Ecology and such sends me. As for our program, we do indoor air quality assessments. That's more when requested. We do, for when we do outreach and education, we have that option available for people. We monitor events, mostly dust and smoke. Don't have, unless it's off reservation, we don't have much else for monitoring wise, and then vehicle exhaust, and then outreach and education is local events plus some school events such as Earth Day, and where we kind of discuss like the flag program, try and get more interest in that, and just general air quality overview. We do environmental reviews, Clean Air Act and FAR implementation, and of course administrative. And so when I learned about this program through Tribal Healthy Homes, through Eileen mostly, and Gillian, but mostly Eileen, she's an exciting person to talk to about this. And I had learned about the toolkit from the National Tribal Forum on Air Quality and our biennial meeting with the EPA, where I would see Eileen and talking about the toolkit, and it's and just it was probably a handful of meetings that I've been to. And my interest just kept on kind of peaking as I discussed more on this topic. And I decided, since we already do a radon program for indoor air quality, which is probably our main indoor air quality item we monitor for, because we have a Midnight Mine, which is a very large uranium mine that is being cleaned up now on the reservation. So we just have a lot of potential radon on the res. And so I decided, well, I'd add that to the program, to the indoor air quality aspect of, it's not a bit large portion, but I wanted to add more to it when we do assessments, or just get people curious so they clean their homes in a more uniform way. And and we do smoke awareness too, like doing the collecting your wood sooner so you burn cleaner wood, and maintaining your wood stove. So I wanted to kind of add it all together and create a healthier program and in-home living. Funding sources. We have a Clean Air Act 103 grant out of EPA. And with that, I was able to purchase, as I say below, one kit. And I wanted to kind of test the waters to see how the kit would take, because I didn't have much money, so I didn't want to spend a lot and it flopped or anything like that. So I decided to do more targeted events and audience, and that included our local housing fair and our Spokane Interstate Fair, where we have a Spokane Tribe section, and there was quite a bit of interest. But I also have a range of different outreach materials and that I'd created or got from EPA or other sources, and I kind of use the whole thing to pull in people, not just the kit. So if I get them talking about one thing, I can kind of draw their interest and pull them towards the kit usage as well. And the audience I was kind of targeting, it was for the indoor air quality. I mean, I got some interest on that, but I was also pulling them, like, say, recently they had a indoor air purifier creation with the box fan, and I had that set up on a do-it-yourself, and that drew a lot of people to that, which then I kind of turned over to the kit and sparked more interest. And of course, cost I saved because I only bought one, but but I was planning on purchasing more, or at least some to drive more interest. What worked great and what didn't. The interactions, of course, with the people, being able to speak to different people, not just the tribal members on the res, but off reservation too, at the like the Spokane Fair and things like that, which might have not have initially been even remotely interested in the kit, but because of my other outreach tools, I was kind of drawing them to that a little bit. Targeted influence, mostly try to get the elders and things at the housing fairs, where I have a higher count of people there. And the live demo, so I was able to do a Q&A session with people. So if they were interested in an item they had no clue on, such as the moisture meter, there was a lot of questions on that one. That one's pretty good. And people not realizing the wet wood burning creates so much more smoke and things like that. Cons, of course, number of people influenced. I only had one kit, and so the only people I influenced was whoever showed up at my booth. So I didn't get a whole bunch of like feelers out there to generate interest. And I did mention, since we have a bigger booth, I trusted that since it was kind of surrounded by the other people, none of my stuff would walk off. I should have put a display only sign, but I spaced and my CEO monitor walked off. So don't don't have that issue in the future by creating a better kind of setup. And yeah, so we'll do questions later, but yep, that's my info. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucas. And I love this picture too.
And that's my little dog, Maddie.
So sweet. Thank you so much. That was an excellent presentation with lots of good learnings for others. I really appreciate it. I know we are seeing some questions come into the chat box, and we're going to get to those shortly. First, I'm going to turn the mic over to Krista with the Tribal Healthy Homes Network. And then I will turn it back to Gillian and we'll do some question answers. So please do continue to put questions and comments into the chat box or question function. We're looking forward to getting to those. So let's see here. And again, thank you, Lucas. And I'm going to change it over to Krista.
Sounds good. Can you see my screen?
Yep, looks and sounds great. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name's Krista. I'm the program coordinator for the Tribal Healthy Homes Network for the Partnership for Air Matters. And I'm going to be going over a little bit about the tools themselves as well as the ordering process. I probably have talked to at least some of you on the webinar right now, and to those of you, hi, and to those of you who are new, it's great to meet you virtually, and hopefully after this pandemic ends, you'll meet some of us at a forum or an event sometime soon. So let's get to the presentation. So a little bit about the Air Matters program. It's a comprehensive toolkit aimed to educate, teach, and empower residents about indoor air quality issues. The Air Matters program is the first step towards engagement at both the individual and community levels. So the ideal behind the toolkit itself is that it helps move residents along the continuum from education to empowerment. And through learning about different indoor air quality tips and tricks, we hope that they can take that knowledge to action, not only in their homes, but into their communities. So the pros about our toolkits, they are affordable, they're easy to use, and a lot of the knowledge base is free. So we do reinforce things that don't cost any money on the cue cards. So things like opening windows, regularly using that squeegee to wipe down excess moisture on windows and stuff like that. And through this low cost, easy to use strategies, we hope that it reinforces regular implementation of healthy home practices. And so what's in the toolkits? So we have 11 tools including the cue cards. And the cue cards, so a little about the cue cards. So the cue cards go over the tool that it pertains to, as well as why that tool is important, how to use the tool, and just different indoor air concepts that align with the tool. And so let's get to the first one on the list. So the hygrometer. So the hygrometer measures relative humidity in the air, and that kind of reinforces, things like opening windows if it's too high. Maybe if you're in the bathroom and you're showering, making sure that fan is on. Also, carbon monoxide detectors, so that's super important in homes that have gas appliances, of course, but we do recommend that everyone have one just because it makes it safer. The surface mold removal kit, so kind of I talked about that squeegee, scrub brush, Bonami, lead paint detection kit. So that's an instant test that shows if the paint on your in your home has lead in it. And of course, if your home is built prior to 1978, there's a high likelihood that there is lead. So we do recommend to definitely test if your home is an older home. Allergy-free pillowcase. So for people like me that suffer with just every allergy known to humankind, we definitely recommend you get that allergy-free pillowcase, especially for kids, just because it prevents dust mites from settling in the pillowcase. The chimney thermometer, so kind of like what Lucas talked about, it shows how hot your stove is burning and if it's in the danger level. And so the digital wood moisture meter, it measures things like wood. So if you're going to burn it, it shows you how wet your wood is. And then I believe the cue card talks about levels that are safe. And also on our website, we have a bunch of information on that. The green cleaning kit, I'm sure you all know green cleaning reduces the use of chemicals like bleach, non-toxic pest traps. So those are pretty cool because they have they use pheromones to attract the insects, which is super cool. And like if you have kids, you might want to show them just because it's really it's kind of cool to see them go to something. It's kind of like a science in action sort of thing. And it also reinforces not using chemicals like RID to kill insects. The radon gas detection kit, so like Lucas talked about, especially Spokane has pretty significant radon problems. We do recommend that everyone test their home for radon, just because, you know, it can happen anywhere. But there are certain geographic locations that every single home needs to be tested. And then finally, the cue cards. So I believe Eileen's gonna talk a little bit more about the technical assistance she provides, but we do want to remind folks that, you know, presuming this pandemic is hopefully over soon, we can provide in-person training on the toolkits. We can help them get into the toolkits into your communities. We can provide education at like community events. And then we do provide 90-minute, well, for example, this is a webinar, but we also provide Zoom options to go over the toolkits, talk about how, you know, you can best talk to folks about them, and just provide just general educational resources. And hopefully Eileen will go over that a little bit more. So the first step, if you find this interesting and you think you might want to buy the toolkit, we highly encourage you to go to thhnw.org. It's your one-stop shop for accessing Air Matters tools, resources, and technical assistance. The toolkits can be customized to meet the unique needs of your tribe, like we talked about. So while we do recommend that all homes test for radon, we do know that maybe that's not, you know, on your priority list and you have limited funding. So if you could message me or Eileen or even Gillian, we can kind of talk through ideas of what tools might best meet the needs of your tribe. And that is all also described on the Air Matters section of the website. So step 2, so actually the purchasing options. So this is towards the middle of that Air Matters page. So we have our pricing, we have our payment options, so you can send a check or you can make an online payment. But please, I do recommend, please message us before you make a payment, just because it's a good idea to really triage everything beforehand with you, just so that you can, you know, make sure that whatever you're purchasing is relevant to your community needs, because we don't want to overwhelm you with too many tools that might not, like the residents might get it and just be like, I don't need this. I really needed 2 of the pillowcases, or I wanted another radon kit to share with my neighbors. So like if you can message us, we can really triage, you know, your community needs better. And then just a little bit about the processing. So orders typically take about a week. Assembly times are completely based upon the order. So for example, an average order of 25, that would take probably about a month. The largest order we had was 250, and that I believe took, I think, 3 months about. And that's, if you're gonna order that large of a size, you definitely need to message me before making a payment. And then for rush orders, we do allow rush orders, but again, you definitely need to message me first. So if you have a quick turnaround, like you want to get this out at a health fair, or you want to get it out at, like a school, like maybe a school's having an event, please do message me, because this is typically on a first come, first served basis. However, if there is, for example, if the orders that are ahead of you aren't urgently needed, we can prioritize yours. But again, you definitely need to message me. And that wraps it up. That's my email. That's my phone. Feel free to email me. Feel free to call me about any of this. And yeah, hopefully Eileen can go over a little bit about technical assistance, about how you can really get these tools into your community. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Krista. That was excellent overview of the different resources and the program that you guys offer. Excellent. I am going to switch the mic over to Gillian to do the raffle, and then in a couple of, just quick bits of information, and then back to Eileen to add anything she'd like to your presentation, Krista, and also to facilitate some Q&A. That sounds good. Going to change to Gillian.
And I'm good. I don't have a slide up, so I am not going to accept your share my screen.
Oh, okay.
So, however, I will say that first of all, thank you to our incredible speakers and the work that you've done and that we can learn from you. Thank you. And to those of you who clicked other when we did the polls at the beginning, so would you please, if you have a chance, add to the chat box what that other looked like. Likewise, if you are willing for us to reach out to you to do some follow-up, Sydney Jansen presented on the first and second webinar summarizing an evaluation. And that information is really helpful for us to know how to help in customizing the program and tailoring it for your needs. So we'd love to hear also, just so we can share your ideas. So for the raffle today, I will say that I believe it's Nancy Yee who won, and I'm gonna hopefully say this correctly, but Yochadihi Winton Nation is what I think I'm seeing. So I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. At any rate, congratulations, we will be emailing you. And then to all of you, before we go to questions, all 3 webinars have been recorded. Again, they'll be on our YouTube, and you should get an email sometime this afternoon with links to all of those, especially if you're interested in watching the others and seeing the recording. On that note, Eileen, would you like to take us away with questions? And Eileen, we can't hear you if you are, if you're chatting with us, we can't hear you.
All right, so how's that?
Great.
Better? Okay,
Hello.
great. So, couple of things. There was one woman who, and we know who this is, who said that she modified the outreach that you asked about, that she had a drive-through event. So I don't know if you want to put that through on your in your stable of ways to access different ways of accessing your community. And then let's see, Brittany asked if Auxinia has a reference she could share for the Healthy Home Assessments, and she did. And on their website, and I believe, Aaron, you sent that directly to her, but it might be nice to send, I don't know if Auxinia wants to have everyone to have her email, but that is available. And then there was a question from Shayna asking about if, for Auxinia, if she had for pregnant women, new moms, if she had done any work with the Family Spirit Home Visiting Program. And it's a program from the John Hopkins Center for the American Indian Health. So that's a great question. And
no, we
Oxinia,
haven't. Yeah, no, we haven't. For pregnant moms, this is one of our new projects, and we're very targeted. Our service area is the Manilik region, so Kotzebue pregnant moms, Buckland pregnant moms, Kayana pregnant moms, all the smaller communities that are serviced by Manilik. But yeah, we haven't worked with them. That's I will share that with the team.
that's great, Oxinia. Thank you. And
Hey,
then
can I just jump in, Eileen? Sorry, really quickly, just to add, one of the things we've tried to do at Tulalip, we haven't been able to do it yet, but the idea of targeting that vulnerable population of, pregnant and birth to age 18 months when the lungs are still developing is the WIC program we were able to talk to. We haven't quite been able to integrate with them, but they're a way also because they have resources, quite a few resources, and the women will come into our community health building and for the WIC program, and we're hoping to provide kits through them as well. So I just wanted to add that as an example of creative outreach.
that's great. Thank you, Gillian. And then let's see, we also got an ask about radon. And let's see, what is the threshold for radon? Well, it's 4 picocuries per liter. And that's for definitely for radon mitigation, but levels below that can also be dangerous. And then also there was another question about have you any money available for radon mitigation, which is a great question. And I'm hoping there are some federal funds. I'm going to pass that question over to Aaron or Gillian. Maybe there are. And certainly that's where the funding guide might be able to help folks. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think just reading looking at the question more closely, it looks like specifically the question was about radon mitigation in tribal housing that is rented. And so I'm going to say yes, but it's complicated. So I think, and Gillian may be able to share some more specifics. EPA doesn't have radon mitigation funding. Sometimes our radon funds through the SIRG, SIRG program can be used for testing different, kind of piloting different types of mitigation strategies, but mostly is for other types of radon work. That being said, so the tribal indoor air funding directory that Eileen was pointing to, I'll make sure to drop a link into the chat box, is a great resource to use for looking for different types of funds. I know that sometimes different types of HUD grants, housing and urban development, can be used for tribal housing, radon mitigation in tribal housing, including housing that is rented. It just depends on a number of different factors. So there's no one quick, easy answer, but that's certainly something we'd be happy to chat with you about on the side. And Gillian, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Not really. I did put in the chat box. The nice thing for those of you, whether you work for a tribe or for a local, state, or federal, a lot of the funding sources are broader. And if you go to our database, you can search by radon and then by activity. So outreach, testing, mitigation, and then it will do a search. You can also search by region, but it'll give you a sense of, essentially with radon, it's going to be HUD and USDA, where you have direct dollars to mitigate and do structural work in a house, right? Otherwise, most of the federal funding is going to be about outreach, education, assessment, monitoring, which I think we're all pretty much past the stage and need to get to the mitigation. And yeah, that's all.
Makes me think about Bureau of Indian Affairs Housing Improvement Program too. Though again, I know there are lots of needs for that program, and not enough to go around, as with probably all the funding programs.
Yeah.
But it's another
Yeah.
resource to look into. Eileen, are there other questions?
I think that was it that I was able to get off the chat box. But I want to thank everybody for these questions. They're great, and for attending. And if you have any questions about training or using the kits to train with, I'm Eileen Gagne, and happy to help you no matter how you care to approach your community. Always open for new ideas and to help with any way I can. Thank you.
And I'll add, just for those of you who haven't used the Circuit Rider program, one of the most successful parts is that it acts as a catalyst, because Eileen will usually have folks from the schools, housing, healthcare, social services, and we bring multiple people together for one of our trainings. So it gives you a chance to then leverage all the people who you'd like to work with to do outreach and education. So it's that's one of the strengths. Erin, you want to wrap us up, as it looks like we're right at the top of the hour?
Definitely thank you to our presenters and our collaborators on this webinar series, and thank you to everyone who joined today. I think we had about 100 people participating, and we invite you to provide any feedback to us, and we'll be following up with some resources. We'd also love to hear from you about different learnings from your program, so please feel free to reach out. We've loved the ideas we've received so far, and certainly this is something we're all doing together and learning from each other. So again, appreciate your participation and your sharing. And thanks to all, and I hope everybody has a great afternoon.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.